This conference will now be recorded.
Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as loud as we can. Hello. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as quiet as we can. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello like a bee. Zzz. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello like an ant. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as nice as we can. Hi, preschool friends. I'm so glad to be here with you today. We're going to start with our question of the day. We have been talking about insects for quite a while now, and our question of the day is, what is your favorite insect that we've talked about? I love all of those insects. I would love it even more if you would draw me a picture of your favorite insect, and you can have your mom or your dad or anyone else take a picture and post it in the comments below. I think my favorite insect that we've talked about so far is the butterfly. I love how they change from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and I love the colors. So many butterflies are such beautiful, bright colors. I can't wait to see the pictures you draw me. The next thing we're going to talk about is our health activity. And over the weeks, we've talked about brushing our teeth, and we've talked about washing our hands, and we've talked about wearing a mask. Well, today we are going to talk about eating healthy. And when we eat our breakfast, our lunch, and our dinner, we want to make sure that we're choosing foods from each of the 5 food groups. And the 5 food groups are grains, vegetables, protein, dairy, and fruit. So when we are getting our food, we want to make sure that we have something from each of those food groups. I'm going to give you some examples of each food group. So fruit, they have a banana or some grapes or an apple or maybe even some blackberries. What's your favorite kind of fruit? Mine is strawberries. For dairy, that's where we get our milk, our yogurt, or our cheese. What is your favorite kind of dairy? I love cheese, especially the string cheese that you can pull apart. Have you ever tried that? I think it's delicious. Protein is kind of where our meat falls in. So we have ham and we have steak and fish, and chicken would fall under that. They also have eggs, beans, and peanuts. So peanut butter would be a form of protein. I think my favorite kind of protein is an egg. I love them in all different ways. You can scramble them, you can fry them, you can boil them. I think they're good in all ways. Vegetables. Now, some of my preschool friends struggle with eating vegetables, but vegetables make you strong. They make your bones strong and they make your muscles strong. They help your eyes, and we want to grow big and strong. Some vegetables that we could eat are broccoli, peppers, corn, carrots, or even green beans. What is your favorite vegetable? Now, I know you have a favorite vegetable. I like that too. My favorite vegetable is peas. And finally, we have grains. This is where our bread is. So we have bread, some cereal, crackers, rice, muffins. or even noodles. So when we're choosing our foods, we want to make sure we make a rainbow. And that means we're choosing foods from each of the 5 food groups. We want to make sure we have a variety of colors of fruits and vegetables. And when we eat like that and we eat from all of the different food groups and we try to stay away from the sweet stuff and the fried stuff, then we grow up to be big and strong. And you throw in a little exercise like running around outside and playing, then you will definitely be the healthiest preschooler around. So we want to focus on eating those healthy fruits and vegetables and choosing proteins, grains, and dairy. One of our activities we're going to do this week is called environmental print. And environmental print is the words that you just see around you, maybe stores or toys or TV stations or things you drink. They each have a name, and those words are things that are familiar to you and you don't even know it. Did you know that you can already read a lot of words? I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to pick a card and then you tell me what it says. You're right, it says Burger King. And you know that because maybe you eat at Burger King sometimes. Burger King starts with B, Burger King. Let's see, I know this one's really popular right now. Pokemon. Pokemon starts with the letter P. Pokemon. I bet you didn't know you could read so many words already. How about this one? You're right. It says macaroni and cheese. Macaroni starts with M. We'll do a couple more. Now I know everybody's going to know this one. McDonald's. Nice job. How about, do you know this one? Oreos. I love to pull them apart and eat the center. We'll do two more. Can anybody read this? You're right. It's SpongeBob. SpongeBob SquarePants starts with S. Nice guess. Target. Target starts with T. So when you are looking around your house, you can look at boxes in your cupboards, maybe boxes of food or cans of food or things in your refrigerator, the toys you have to play with, the shows you watch on TV. A lot of those things have words. And when you know what that picture represents, then you can read it. I'll give you one more. M&Ms. So you know how to read so many words already. So what I want you to do is go on a word hunt around your house and see how many words you already know how to read. You can post in the comments how many you know. It's so exciting when you are able to start reading, and this is some of the first steps in learning that. You start to learn the words that are familiar to you and that you recognize when you go out to the stores or just on a drive around with your family or maybe even out to eat. Let me know how many words you can read. Next, we are going to read our story. And since we've been talking about people who work with insects this week, we are going to read a story about a beekeeper. This story is called The Bee Man, and The Bee Man was written by Lori Krebs. That means she's the author, so she wrote all of the words. And it was illustrated by Valerie Valeria Sis, and that means she drew the pictures. So the bee man is about a little boy and his grandfather, and the grandfather is a beekeeper. Remember, beekeepers help to keep bees safe, but they also harvest some of the honey that the bees make. So we are going to read The Bee Man and find out a little more about beekeepers. It starts with a little poem and it goes like this. Bees. There wouldn't be sunflowers, wouldn't be peas, wouldn't be apples on apple trees if it weren't for fuzzy old buzzy old bees dusting pollen from off their knees. Here is my grandpa, who's known in our town as the Bee Man. Here is his jacket with a tight-fitting hood that covers his face just the way that it should when he visits his hives as the bee man. Do you remember yesterday we read a book about a beekeeper and we found out that they wear a hat with netting around it that keeps them safe from the bees. Here are his gloves made of cotton and leather, protecting his hands in all kinds of weather when he tends to his hives as the bee man. So he wears gloves to protect him also. That keeps him from getting stung by the bees. Here is the beehive where all of the bees sleep, tucked into a box called a shallow or deep, and then placed on a stand by the bee man. So these are called beehives, and that is where the bees sleep. Here is the smoker that calms down the bees and a hive tool that opens the beehive with ease for a much closer look by the bee man. So this is called a smoker and it blows out smoke, and when it lands on the bees, it kind of makes them calm and sleepy. So then the beekeeper is able to look in the hive and maybe collect some honey without disturbing them and making them angry. Here is the queen bee who does her job well and lays tiny eggs in a six-sided cell. The hexagon is a six-sided cell. That's where the beehive is. She's the heart of the hive, says the bee man. That's the honeycomb. It's got six sides on each one. Here are the drone bees with big bulging eyes and a large appetite supporting their size. They mate with the queen as the bee man. So an appetite means like they can eat a lot. When you have a good appetite, it means you can eat. Here are the workers, 10,000 or more, who gather the nectar to bring back and store in honeycomb cells for the bee man. So there's all the worker bees. They're the ones who go out and collect the pollen and nectar to bring back to the beehive. Here are the house bees with swift moving wings. They dry up the nectar a worker bee brings, making honey for me and the bee man. So the house bees fan their wings really fast and it helps to create the honey. Here's the extractor. It's clickety-clack, removing the honey from the frames on its rack and filling up jars for the bee man. Do you remember yesterday we read that story and they put the frames into this machine and it spins really fast and then the honey comes out down here. Here's some of the honey returned to the hive. It's food for the bees to help them survive the long winter days near the bee man. So even though he takes some of the honey so that he can sell it or eat it, he brings some of the honey back to the beehive because it's important that the bees use that honey to eat when it's cold outside, when they can't go and collect more nectar. Here are the bees protected from harm inside the hive, huddled, sheltered, and warm, so they'll be here next year, says Bee Man. So the bees spend the whole winter when it's really cold in these beehives. Here is the wagon filled up to the brim with bottles of honey collected by him and brought to the house by the bee man. So there's all of the honey that he's collected from the bees. Here are the muffins, all warm and delicious and dripping with honey on Grandma's best dishes. So Grandma made some delicious muffins. I'm glad that my grandpa's the bee man. Giving him a hug. It looks like they're enjoying some nice muffins with honey. And then this is some information about bees. It says bees belong to the insect family. We already knew that. They live in large group called colonies. A colony of bees has one queen, several hundred drones, and tens of thousands of workers. A bee goes through complete metamorphosis. They start out as an egg, they hatch into a worm called a larva, then they turn into a pupa, and finally they come out as an adult bee. This is some information about beekeeping. They have the hives where they keep the bees, and inside are the frames. This is where the bees are able to make their honeycomb cells and make their honey. They use the smoker. It's a metal container called a smoker in which they build a smoky fire. When beekeepers inspect the hive, they puff the smoke to calm the bees. The extractor is what spins around and gets the honey removed from those honeycombs. And then finally, we have a little bit of information about honey. It says honey tastes delicious. People have been enjoying it for a really long time. It's gathered from the bees, and then we use it to eat. We use it to sweeten things, and we even put it in different drinks like tea. This talks about bee dancing. Remember, the bees dance to communicate with each other. And then there's a recipe for Grandma's apple and honey muffins, and I will post this recipe in the comments. And that is the end of our story. So I'm going to stop sharing our screen, and we are going to wrap up our circle time for today. I hope you all can join me next week. It's time to go. Goodbye, goodbye. It's time to go. Goodbye, goodbye. See you later, alligator. Bye, bye, bye. Butterfly. See you next time, preschool friends.